Cachaça, the iconic spirit of Brazil and one of the most consumed spirits on the planet. But what exactly is it? In this video, I talk about what cachaça is, where it came from, a little bit of its history, and then I finish it off by talking about some of my favorite brands right now. I love cachaça. It is a wonderfully complex spirit with so much variety. And quite frankly, I believe that every bartender should have a bottle behind their bar somewhere. And it shouldn't be just for making caipirinha. So what is it? Before we get into what it is, I actually want to talk about what it isn't. So for a really long time here in the United States, anytime you saw a bottle of cachaça anywhere, it was labeled as Brazilian rum. And that's really misleading and also just wrong. Cachaça and rum they have a similar origin story, but they are definitely not the same spirit. They taste slightly different. They have a different flavor profile. So what is the difference between the two? They both technically do come from the same plant, but just in a different way. Cachaça is a spirit that's distilled from sugarcane juice, whereas rum is a spirit distilled from molasses, which is a byproduct of sugar production. So when you make sugar, you take sugar cane, you do stuff to it, and out gets that little white granular stuff that you probably put in cocktails, drinks, and all that kind of stuff. But it also makes molasses. And so they then take that molasses and they distill it and it creates rum. Whereas with cachaça, they just take the raw sugar cane, press it, take the juice, and distill that. That ends up leading to a more vegetal, more grassier flavor profile for cachaça, whereas with rum, it tends to have a little bit more of that perceived sweetness due to the molasses. And on top of those differences, while rum is the more world famous spirit, cachaça actually predates it by about 150 years. So the Portuguese settlers, they started distilling cachaça back in 1500, whereas rum didn't start getting made until the 1650s. So all right, now that we've cleared up that, let's talk about what makes cachaça just so special and incredible. So like I said earlier, cachaça is the iconic, classic spirit of Brazil. Cachaça can only be made in Brazil, the same way that bourbon can only be made in the United States and champagne can only be made in France and Scotch can only be made in Scotland. And what that means for cachaça is that since Brazil is a giant country with so many different climates and different atmospheres and different environments, it really lends itself to a crazy variety of cachaças because it's made all over the country. In Brazil, you have mountains, you have deserts, you have rainforest, you have this wide variety of terrain that all contributes to the flavors found in cachaça. And it's in those varieties that I think the most fun of cachaça comes from. I like to say that you can compare cachaça not only to rum, but also to tequila and American whiskey as well. And the reason I say that is that there are similar flavors between some cachaças and some tequilas, some of those grassier, earthier notes. And there's also some cachaças out there that drink like bourbons and they drink like American whiskey because they get aged in similar kinds of barrels. And it can even be drunked. It can even be dranked. You can even drink it on its own. If you've heard of cachaça before, it probably came about because of the caipirinha. You either had one or someone's told you about it. But all right, now that we've kind of gone through what cachaça is, where it came from, a little bit of its history, and why it's a little bit varied and different, let's get to the fun part and start drinking. So the first cachaça I want to talk to you guys about is Ipioca Prata. This is probably going to be pretty widely available no matter where you are in the States, I believe. This is what I consider to be my workhorse cachaça. It's not too expensive. Each bottle you can get for about 20 bucks roughly. And it is a fantastic, clean drinking, beautiful cachaça that makes a fantastic caipirinha. So we tend to use this here at the bar for caipirinhas and some other regular cachaça cocktails. Just gonna do a little bit. So on the nose, you can kind of smell some of that vegetalness, some of that grassy tones. And it's not too harsh. It has a little bit of a burn, but that's good in a cocktail. When it gets mixed up with that lime and that sugar, it creates a very beautiful tasting flavor for caipirinhas. And it's just genuinely a really good base bottle if you don't want to go too crazy with it. And so Ipioca also makes an Ouro Reserva, which they age in oak barrels, which ends up flattening some of those sharper tones from the Ipioca Prata and allows you to just drink it straight. So I'm gonna pour some of this out so that you can see some of the color. It's, as you can tell, it's much darker, clearly, because it has some of those, that caramel looking color, that like gold color. And still same grassy notes. It's definitely a little bit sweeter. It's probably gotten sweetened out over time because of the oak barrels. Now, the next cachaça I want to talk about is Novo Fogo. These guys are an 100% organic distillery down in Brazil, and I love everything that they do. This one right here is their barrel-aged cachaça. It says it's repurposed oak barrels. If I'm not mistaken, those are repurposed bourbon barrels, which gives this some of that bourbon vanilla caramel notes to the cachaça. And this right here is their Tanager, and it is a cachaça that is aged both in repurposed oak barrels and then in zebra wood barrels, which are native to southern Brazil, and they create this really lovely red coloring, and it adds an earthier taste to it. Phenomenal. If you can find these are really good. But the Tanager I will pour. This lovely red coloring on it is something that I love, and the way it tastes is just so great. Oh yeah, like it's a very cloudy, darker color, much darker than typically like aged cachaça would be. Still some of those floral, grassy notes on the nose. God, by God, that is delicious. That's so good. And honestly, like it still has those vegetal notes for the cachaça, but you definitely get a lot of that vanilla on the back end. You taste that sweetness that you would find in, say, like a bourbon. And it just makes for such a complex, easy drinking cachaça. I would genuinely just put a cube in this and let it chill over ice, because this chilled is just out of this world. And so one of the things that I genuinely love about cachaça, like I said earlier, is the variety. And not only do you get the variety from the fact that the sugarcane is grown in so many different climates, and that contributes to different flavors depending on where the distillery is, the fact that you can use so many different types of woods to age cachaça, and the fact that Brazil itself has so many different iconic and unique type of woods that they then use to age cachaça. And like I had mentioned, the zebra wood in the Tanager. And then you also have things like the Amburana wood or balsam wood, which are all native Brazilian woods that then get used to age these cachaças. It creates this crazy variety of flavors, and they're all equally delicious. My hope with this video is that hopefully someone out there that makes drinks will be interested more in cachaça, and they'll start using it more. And this is a spirit that I am so fond of, and it means so much to me because I am Brazilian and I am a Brazilian bartender. And in a lot of the places that I worked prior to having my own bar, we never really had cachaça. I was never really able to play with it. It was something that always felt out of reach to me. So one of the first things that I wanted to do when I had my own bar was to have a larger collection of cachaça, because it's an iconic Brazilian spirit, and I want to be able to, you know, add different elements and contribute something to the conversation about cachaça. And I want more people to drink it, because it genuinely is a spirit that I believe belongs on anybody's shelf if they like and enjoy spirits, and if they like and enjoy alcohol. This is something that they need to try. And we'll catch you in the next one. Cheers. Hey, why not check out this video I did right here about how to make a caipirinha?